always go more just like, the cheap and creepy, like, like Teddy
recording.
Ruxpin. Oh, you're already recording?
Yes.
Once again, you snuck it in there.
Once
again, we're wasting our good material.
Hear much of what you were
early
saying.
on.
All
right.
English podcast. That's Brett.
That's Eric.
And we were talking about a random article that I saw
Sounds
just as I was
intriguing.
opening this that said concerns rise as talking dolls get smarter. Without reading the article, we were talking about what their concerns might be.
And I said, are they having like sex education Barbie? Like you shake the doll and it starts to talk?
It doesn't tell you that until it's
Right.
alone with the kid. And then
Right,
it's
yeah,
just tells them
exactly.
to do
Then
stuff.
are the parents home? No. Then it
And
processes
it's like, why
that
don't you
request.
light a
It's
few
like,
matches?
yeah. Or it says, good. Let me tell you about safe sex.
Right.
If you're going to do anal, they're like, wait, what?
Oh my goodness!
Yeah.
You must first watch The Buttfuckers Glorious.
Right, yeah. Actually, there's no anal in that movie.
No, yeah,
It's
weirdly enough,
it's really a family-friendly movie.
Right. Despite the name. So we're gonna sing. I've read another.
You're going to read this article.
We're gonna read it. Find out why they're worried about
People
the
were
talking
worried
dolls.
about talking dolls. All right. So while you are skimming that article, I'm going to give, other than joke answers, my guesses. Here.
Okay.
Let's see. I think it might be. It's got to be something like that. That the kids are going to, or that just like cell phones, it's becoming too absorbing to kids. That they'll
that's what it
socialize
looks like.
wrong.
Well, it
by
says
learning
it's
talk
like
at
doing like an
pre-programmed.
uncanny valley thing too, where the parents are just getting creeped out that the kids are like interacting with this robot and
Right,
like
yeah,
not really
exactly.
developed. Because it says internet-connected talking dolls like Hello Barbie that can actually converse are bewitching kids but unsettling parents. Are they really the menace critics have made them out to be? And then it just goes on to say people like...
Wait, they're internet connected?
Yeah, so I guess...
That could be creepy. Somebody could hack that crap.
Yeah, and really
be
talk to the kid.
Really talk to the kid about
Did you
safe
know you
sex.
can fly if you chew bubblegum?
Right, like, do you know I'm currently...
Jumps to death.
Or do you know I'm currently in the white van behind the merry-go-round at the county...
Please get me my free candy.
Right, yeah.
It's in this van.
Right, yeah. Hello, honey.
So the suspected Riley would be ecstatic. They're testing out this, says Riley's mother. What does it do to imagination, she asks. Riley has no problem making up her own adventures. Wouldn't this toy ultimately stifle her, like, now my scroller's not working.
Yeah,
Stifle her productivity.
But it'll give somebody...
Conductivity.
Conductivity?
I meant-
That's not affected by how much you're talking to robots. Maybe if you're
That's
standing
what the
in
robots
sunlight.
worried about. Like, we need to enhance your conductivity.
Right,
Plug
yeah.
in.
Yeah, exactly.
Fries the hell out of them.
Right, yeah. No, here's
That's
what I
hilarious.
see. The other unintended side effect coming out of these. Now there'll be horror movies about robo dolls that go.
Well, they already
evil.
have Chucky and
Right,
stuff.
but now that'll, instead of being ghosts or haunted, it'll just be evil robots.
Like a Skynet doll.
Right, yeah, like it breaks, like the old story of the robot that goes bad and
Right.
kills you. But now they can do that with children's dolls, and it won't be that far-fetched.
Funny.
It'll be like, they'll have reviews, 4 stars, very grounded horror movie. Yeah, okay, right, grounded.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anyways.
Unfortunately, it was the pedestrian fears that we feared.
Yeah, nothing exciting.
Nothing
No one's even
exciting.
worried about. Even their fears are lame.
Yeah, exactly. I need somebody standing on a podium going, these robot dolls
Right,
are actually
exactly.
housing the souls of demons.
They're gonna take
They
us
haven't
over."
solved any programming.
Right.
It's all imps powering these.
They'll turn our own children against us.
Right, yeah, exactly. They were made in China. Do you know when you're not in the room? I have recordings,
Yeah,
and so they start spouting Maoist doctrine.
Right, yeah, exactly. Like socialist. It's like that. Have you seen that weird? It's like a cartoon. I've seen people use it for different points that they want to make. But anyways,
Right.
it's this girl is like outside, and there's like a pony, and she's like, "Oh, I wish I could talk to ponies." And it's like a fairy,
I think I've seen
and it's
this
like, "I'm
one.
gonna grant your wish." And it's like, "I wish I could talk to ponies." And then she's like, "Wish granted." And the next step, it shows the horse. The girl's like curled up, like crying, and the horse is like, "Bernie Sanders doesn't know shit about economics, Sally."
Yeah, I saw that one. I saw another one where it's like talking to animals, then the animal says like,
Yeah, they always change whatever the
9/11
animal
was an
says.
inside job.
Right, where they're
Yeah.
like, jet fuel doesn't melt steel beams,
Right,
Sally.
that one, yeah, exactly. And she's
and
like,
crying.
Yeah, I did see that.
No one stopped to think that the horse just might be an asshole.
Right, yeah.
Like it's going to talk about whatever you want to talk about.
Right, yeah. You're so special, Sally.
Right.
God damn it, I wish you'd get off my back, you fat
Right,
ass.
yeah, exactly. We're just talking about something lame and annoying.
Right, yeah,
like
exactly.
9/11 conspiracies. That's hilarious.
Yeah, I did see that one. That was amusing.
Speaking about lame, mundane shit in my own life, I'm terrible at cooking. I'm not really terrible at it. I'm terrible at like making myself do it, and I really don't like it.
I get lazy until I'm so hungry
Right.
that I only have 5 minutes to cook something.
Well, yeah, then I can't cook then because.
And I can't cook really much of
But I
anything.
mean, like, and so I bought a bunch of chicken and keep it frozen because I bought it when it's on sale and keep it frozen. I have this terrible habit of like putting it in the fridge to thaw and then leaving it there for 4 weeks until like longer than a week. I'd probably chance it at a week.
Yeah.
But it stays frozen for like 2 days in the fridge.
Yeah.
No, for like much longer than that, and then being like wasting a bunch of chicken. So
I
this
gotcha.
time I was like, I'm going to cook it, and I had probably $20 worth of chicken, and I put it in the big thing, put it in the oven, and then just completely went to sleep and forgot about
in the
it.
oven.
Yeah, within the oven, and then I woke up to like the smell.
Well, you
and
didn't
I
leave
was
it in the fridge.
and then it was like it wasn't burned because it wasn't hot enough really.
It was on low cook.
It was just like 375 or something.
Yeah.
But it was like chicken mummy jerky. Like all the pieces had like juiced until there was like a pool of juice, and then that all dried up too. So it had like fused into this mat of like. It looked like a Zerg floor or something. Right. Occasional bone like sticking out of it, and I was just like,
Zerg
"Oh god, damn it!"
That's too big, too perfect of a thing.
Yeah, exactly. Except it was like pale brown.
Right, yeah, instead of purple.
Right,
like,
instead of purple or green or whatever
right,
the hell it was.
It was like some sort of biomass
Yeah, exactly.
floor.
It just like spread out.
Some sort of cancerous growth.
With like an occasional lump
lives.
that used to be drawn. But then it was like all dried out, so it wasn't like wet anymore because it
Yeah.
just like got into the jerky stage. So it was like a mummified Zerg floor.
Or
Zerg creep, is that what
yeah,
it's called,
the
right?
creep in the games. On a planet already devoid of resources,
Yeah.
they've stolen them all. Now the meat floor has dried up.
Yeah. And I was just like, damn it! Because like all the work was wasted, the money was wasted,
Yeah.
and then I didn't have the food either. I just completely forgot. I was like, oh.
I have to admit to being
Sleep.
kind of forgetful about that kind of stuff too. I mean, usually it's not that hard with like an oven. You just put a timer on. But yeah, like that's why I don't cook as well as I should because I'm like, oh, I'm gonna make this food, and then I get
Right.
up to what I'm doing, and then I'm like, God, why am I so fucking hungry?
You haven't eaten in hours.
Oh, it's been 4 hours.
Right.
That's why.
Or I'll
now
put
I
something
need
in
to,
the
like, eat
microwave
something
and then
now.
I'll go back to start working on the computer or something, and then an hour later, I'm like, oh, I'm gonna be cold. That shit's
Right,
just
yeah,
sitting in the
reheat the
microwave.
microwave.
Have to do it again.
Bachelor life.
What the hell's
I guess,
wrong
yeah.
with It's ridiculous.
So it goes.
I need a Jarvis
Yeah.
to do all that
That's
stuff
the
for
future.
me.
That's
Right.
why
That's
my
what my doll. I want one of these
talking
dolls.
doll, yeah.
Get back to me when they can do that
They have a
shit.
Jarvis.
I don't care if it talks to me. I don't need it
Hey.
to talk at all. I just need it to listen.
All I need to do is to talk to acknowledge my commands.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
To listen, not talk.
And to repeat back what it says to me so I know it heard me.
Right, so I
Yeah.
fuck it up somehow.
Right. Jarvis, repeat what I said. You said to wash the quartermains. No, Jarvis. I didn't say anything that sounded like quartermains. That's the part they don't talk about, in all these like fantasy movies. Is like the 10 years, 20 years of robotics where it's like talking
The
to a
awkward.
child.
Yeah, where it's like
Yeah.
awkward.
Yeah.
Like, nothing is great the first go round.
Yeah, exactly. You have something like, oh, these would be great for taking care of the elderly. We
Right.
get to replace all of these
And it takes
island people we've been
literally-
hiring,
yeah.
and then all of a sudden it just keeps boiling their shoes.
Right, do something weird, or it loses internet connectivity while in the middle of something, and just like
Right, yeah,
keeps
exactly.
doing it and doesn't stop.
Stirs it indefinitely.
Yeah.
Why does it keep leaving things in the oven until
Right.
it's floor jerky?
Yeah, the Zerg floor jerky. Oh, it's horrible. And I was just like, fuck! Could have just saved the money and the time.
Right.
I just bought rotisserie chickens like I have been doing.
Yeah. That's actually a good deal. If any,
That's what I do normally, because especially like
in
it's
the realm
not
of
as
public.
cheap as buying this chicken when it's on sale and freezing it. But if I waste half of it anyway, then it's not. I'm not saving any money,
Yeah. Exactly.
and I'm having to work
Yeah.
because at Ward's, which is just a local store here, they have the rotisserie chickens for like $6.50,
Yeah.
which is even cheaper in Publix.
Yeah, you can't beat that.
Yeah. I mean you can,
Right,
but
I mean, like, in
not
terms of time
wasting all
saved,
the time and the money after I waste all this
and
shit.
most of the people don't have a rotisserie around, you know what I mean? So you have to prepare it some other
You
way.
just bake it or whatever. Right, so it's not quite as good when I do it.
Right.
And, like, half the time, like, even if I'm not wasting the chicken, if it's not prepared and I'm like, I need to eat. I'm not going to eat in 45 minutes to an hour. So then I end up buying something and wasting more money that way.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Just by not cooking it.
Right.
So having the chickens is pretty good.
Right.
Cool. Yeah. So that was a tale from
somebody has
tales from
shown their head out of the hole they've been hiding in the news recently. Can you guess?
Wait. It is the I forget the guy's name. Let me think. I'll think of it in a second. The Wait, I'm gonna remember it. It's the Bowling for Columbine guy, right?
Yes.
Yes, I knew I got it. What the fuck is that fucker's name?
Moore.
Michael Moore, yeah, Michael Moore.
He did some recent, stunt for some upcoming movie or the next movie he wants to do.
Yeah, we just said it with the "We all are Muslims."
We all are Muslims.
That didn't make any fucking sense.
Right, yeah.
No, we are all Muslim. That's what it said.
Yeah, well, his whole stick was like, if you try to block Muslims from entering the country as part of a security measure, then you'll have to block all of us. Like, no.
That
just doesn't make any logical sense.
Right.
He said, like, if you're going to kick them out, you got to kick me out too.
No
and
problem.
I was like, man, don't give them ammunition.
Yeah,
like, the people who don't, I guarantee you there's a strong correlation between the people who think this is a good idea and the people who don't want you to shut up.
Yeah.
You know, like, they're just going to say, you mean I get 2 for 1?
Right.
Why is that today?
Even if you don't agree with the policy, that doesn't make any fucking sense.
It's not a valid way. It's a sophomoric emotional plea that has no validity.
It's not even good rhetoric.
Right, that's what I'm saying.
It's kind of just like a non sequitur.
Right. Because it's not about how, like, I get what he thinks he's trying to do. He's saying they're human too.
Yeah, but that's not what he's
not
saying.
What he's saying.
Words have meaning.
Right, yeah, I stand with them. We're all Muslims. No,
right.
No. I mean, they make a big point of pointing out the guys who are the Muslims that want to kill people for other not being Muslims. That's why they want to kill us, because we're not all Muslim. And sure, if we were all Muslim, they wouldn't be killing us as much. Well, that's not true. They kill a lot of each other too.
No, but not if you're the right sect.
Not if you're the right
Shia
sect.
Or Sunni, yeah.
Right, but I'm saying there is interscene violence, so
right.
It wouldn't stop it completely. I mean, that never stops. It's just human history. But it was. I almost can't even make any more funny out of it. It was just
it's not funny.
head shaking.
Like,
what?
What movie was that in where he was just like? Oh, I think it was Team America, where he was just like, hot dog! Like, what, did he eat hot dogs all the time?
Yeah, I think so, yeah.
Mustard all over him.
It was that or one of the South Park ones.
No, I think it was the puppets.
They just had a quick throwaway scene where, like, during FAG, this film Actors Guild of America, and Michael Moore, he's like, hot dog!
It's like a hot dog and sloshing mustard everywhere.
Right, yeah. Or he's doing a tour of the base inside
that's right. Mountain, talking about how shitty it is while slinging mustard everywhere.
Right, like, you guys are just so imperialist. Like,
right. Well, then he tried to suicide bomb him.
Right, that's right.
So maybe they predicted it. He wants to be Muslim now. Yeah,
exactly.
They were there first.
South Park was right.
They were those guys. It wasn't South Park, but they called it.
It was South Park Studios. The guys.
Speaking of suicide bombing, this is only very tangentially related.
Okay.
I was thinking on the drive over here. I don't know what made me think of it, but just about how, like, lame and terrible. I don't even want to use the term role models, but just what kids are learning from, like, cartoons and shows nowadays.
Okay.
That are just really weak.
I haven't kept up with the whole.
And it's not like the stuff
cartoons, so.
No, I haven't either. But just in general, like shows, TV, culture.
Okay, yeah.
And just the way what's put forward as being like honorable behavior and good behavior versus like what was in years past. Yeah. And not even like I'm not talking about like crazy shit. Like we didn't have, like the stuff that we watched wasn't super awesome in terms of like putting forth the correct ideals, but they were a lot better in terms of general honor and courage and stuff. Like He-Man and stuff like that. Like
both He-Man
I was just remembering
G.I. Joe always had little morals at the end, which are much
and just
mocked,
in general, the characters and the storylines are more about more courageous, characters, loyalty and stuff like that. Like just the basic
the right thing,
virtues,
even when it hurts you, that kind of thing.
Just random stuff like that. And I was remembering in Dragon Ball Z, which actually isn't even as old as those. I was thinking that's a pretty good show in terms of like teaching kids. Like it shows
it's all about persistence.
It shows persistence. Shows like you actually need to. Some people, like even someone like Goku, who's basically like an idiot and gives people like millions of chances all the time.
Right.
He still ends up being like, well, sometimes you just gotta fucking kick their ass.
Right,
he still fights.
Yeah.
And like progressive resistance training shown to really work.
Well, that whole show is about a simple.
But I was remembering specifically this one part.
Gets stronger because he never stops persisting.
Right.
He always trains.
Yeah. And this one part fairly early in Dragon Ball Z where Vegeta and Nappa come down and they're all fighting him they're fighting them all before Goku gets back, and they're all getting their asses kicked just by like Nappa and that little the Chaozu doll thing. Yeah. He like jumps on Nappa and he's getting his ass kicked and he's about to like self detonate to take him out. And Gohan is like, oh, like crying and like looking away, and Piccolo's like, he's like, don't look away. Yeah. He's like, respect his sacrifice, honor his sacrifice. Yeah, exactly. That's fucking awesome. He's like, don't look away. They would never make it in a show nowadays.
Something with some sort of warrior. Don't look away,
honor his sacrifice.
All this guy was dying. This tiny little midget man was dying just
to buy time. He was about to blow himself up to buy time.
Just to buy time.
He knew it
wouldn't even stop him. Man.
Right.
He's like, crying. Don't look away.
Honor his sacrifice.
Hardcore.
Fuck yes.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
That's great.
Yeah. That is.
I would never even close to make it in the shows.
Or like I said, I'm not really watching the
shows. They don't even fight in the kids' shows these days, let alone like be courageous about it.
Right. I'm sure not, you know. Nothing like that kind of courageous. Like,
and honestly, and this is something that gets people all riled up. But that's why I never bought the thing about like the Muslim people being cowards. They always say the suicide bombers are cowards. Oh, they're not cowardly. No. They're stupid and they're wrong, but they're not cowardly.
What's wrong about what they're doing is unfortunate. I mean, the methods are wrong by our standards.
Yeah, I mean,
in reality, it's an effective military
tactic. They're cruel, and I mean, regardless of the effect, it's just not cowardly. Like, you know, Russia, it's stupid. You know, like single-handedly going after, rushing out of something. You're covered to like take on a bunch of people or something.
Yeah. It's the. You know, brave can be dumb.
They're simple-minded and they're wrong,
right?
And they're not very good at a lot of what they do. But most of them are not actually, at least though in those specific instances, not a cowardly act.
I think what it is there's just a lot of people who can't seem to get the idea, and it becomes one of those heated debates with anything of like judging other cultures or immigration. Is they can't seem to not say, I don't want to live like these people without saying that I hate them.
Well, it's all the value statements like we've talked about before. They can't just evaluate an individual aspect of anything without thinking that it's a value statement.
Right, or not only
and also
but it's like, you can't say like...
But that's a conservative thing, too.
Well, you could make a value statement saying, I think it is a worse way to live in a world that would be run by a Sharia law. I think that's a bad way to live, and we should not get into a place where we end up having to accommodate that.
Right.
But at the same time, it's not saying they're cowards.
Right.
You know? You don't have to say that. You know, you don't have to, like, no. I think,
there's a lot
of what they're done is called cowardly in our way of war because for the West had ideas about gentlemanly warfare. You don't target civilians, but if you look at it historically...
But that's not what cowardice
means. That's a Western idea.
That they're talking about, like, just decorum and stuff.
Right, but I mean...
Not cowardice.
Well, like, we regard that as cowardice simply because we regard that as... attacking the weak is cowardice, like the defenseless. But they don't regard that. They regard that as being foolish for leaving yourself open or something.
Just how some people think that like they won't watch mixed martial arts because they think punching someone when they're on the ground is just like untoward.
Says that really?
Not anymore, but it was big like 10 years ago when MMA was first getting big. Like a lot of people were just used to like boxing and they're like, it seems like it's a
low blow.
Low tactical when they're down.
With the morals.
That's what I mean, and that's what I was saying before. Is that like it's disqualifying based on the action, not on like why it's being done. Like there's a lot of things that you would never do as like an upstanding person that are totally fair game if like a rapist breaks into your house.
Or a contest.
If it's within the rules, yeah. But I'm just talking about like literally dirty techniques.
Oh yeah,
like biting, eye gouging, stabbing, tricking them, purposely tricking them, like stuff that you would never do except when someone else is initiated. Like the aggressor is the one who sets the rules of the engagement.
They're there to kill you.
Well, whatever they're there to do, like you don't get to decide what's on and off the table. You just get to decide to win or not. And it's not if you haven't initiated the conflict, then you're not being you're not in the wrong.
Right. Yeah.
And it's not only is it weak, but it's dangerous to be like, oh, I'm going to play by the rules when my life and my family's lives and everything else is in danger, and they're not playing by the rules just because you think it puts you on some moral high ground. It's kind of like I tell people, like you may have the moral high ground, but you'd still be dead. Like when they walk out in front of the crosswalks and they're like not looking, and I'm like, dude, you weren't even looking, and they're like I have the right of way, and I'm like, yeah, you'll be right, and you'll be dead,
right? Yeah,
because the side of
but even that aside,
the law of physics are on the side of the vehicle.
Moral questions that is worth dying for. It's still not correct because, like you said, it's like moral questions in that regard. Methods are not like people.
Vox has said it's like tactics are not. How does he word it? Do you remember the way he said
it? Methods are tactics is not strategy.
Yeah, that's what it is. Yeah, like an individual tactic, like an eye gouge, is not really immoral or even untoward in and of itself. You know what I mean? It's just a tactic.
Was it appropriate?
Yeah. What's the situation?
First off, was the fight appropriate?
Right.
That's more important than the methods.
And if the aggressor has already set the rules of engagement that they're going to kill you no matter, try to kill you no matter what, then nothing's off the table. Yeah.
Yeah, but I mean, not only that, but it's like I think it's just people like to confuse the ends justifying the means. Like they don't want to be that guy. It seems good to see.
Well, they think it makes it like we'll just be as bad as them, and I'm like, no, that's not the way it works.
Right.
Like I said, like if some guy comes in here to gouge out the eyes of your family, and you have to like jump on him and gouge his eyes off to stop him, that doesn't make you as bad as him.
Oh no, I've gouged the eye gouger's eyes out. Exactly. Now I've become the thing I hate.
Yeah, exactly.
They're like, no, you just stop the guy.
Yeah, you were never going to do violence. You didn't initiate violence.
Right. Yeah. That's the thing. Like they're unable to. It all comes down to they're unable to accept the idea of a good person forced to do an extreme thing.
Right.
They can't accept that idea. A good person is somebody who never does that kind of stuff. That's the only way
like
they
good people do. Just like a real man never hits a woman. It's like, never?
Right,
like if they're going to fucking hit a button to blow up a nuclear bomb and kill thousands of people, you're not going to hit them?
Right. If
get the fuck out of here.
Woman from the Bernadette, the California shooting came in.
Yeah, you're not going
to
hit her?
You had an opportunity to jack her in the face and
save dozens of lives or whatever. You're not going to hit her? Give me a fucking break.
Yeah.
Get out of here with that shit.
Right, yeah.
I don't want to be around you if that's like to save my life. Like if it's my friend, you're not going to hit a woman if it's necessary.
There's a difference between taking, saying I am against abuse of your spouse, and to taking a statement to a pedantic level.
To not be violent needlessly against helpless people is really where that not hit a woman came from.
Yeah, well, that was the whole idea of chivalry that it came from.
Yeah, it wasn't really about the fact that it's a woman per se. Just like you wouldn't do it to a child or a much smaller, weaker person or old people. Or it was just about people being helpless.
Once the Catholic Church got involved in this idea of setting the ideas of how knights should behave, like warriors within this emerging European society, they came up with this idea of like, look, you guys are going to fight each other because it's just part of life and like the warring of kings and stuff, but you are all Christians, so let's set some ideals towards what is Christianly behavior within a martial context. And one of the things they came up with is there's no reason to harm the people who aren't involved in the fight.
Right.
Like all this, you guys you're Christian knights, not Vikings. You don't show up.
Yeah, you're not savage berserkers.
Take stuff.
You're not doing it for the sake of the act itself.
Right.
It's for a goal.
It's for a goal or something. So don't run around, And then it also turned into courtly behavior of, pulling out chairs and stuff like that. And then as society got away from having like a martial class like that, it became all about just the courtly behavior.
Right.
And then there was no courts anymore, so it became this romanticized
this idea of the way quote unquote real.
Right, but people don't remember what it came from, which was badass motherfuckers are going to stab somebody going, you know what? I won't stab you. Right. I'm going to kill you, but guess what? I won't kill and rape your family.
Right, yeah, exactly.
I'm nice like that, And you're going, I appreciate that. Yeah. I'm still putting your head in with an axe,
Exactly.
You're like, all right, well, at least we can die with honor. Chop, 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 chop,
Craziness.
Yeah.
But yeah, remember Chaosu's sacrifice.
Yeah, remember Chaosu's sacrifice.
Look at him. Yeah, don't look away. Honor is bravery. I was like, you would never see that show up on the TV screen.
Oh no, they would get that. Would probably if that hadn't already been running for 10 years, that'd probably be edited out or considered too extreme.
Make it to the cutting room floor. Yeah,
right. Like, oh man, what is this teaching kids about? Death. And
yeah, exactly.
Like, oh my god, this is very upsetting. The character dies.
Exactly.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Well, he blew himself up. Oh, okay.
Right.
So, right? He did it honorably. He was a little guy without much he could do to stop these guys. He really was totally outclassed, and he still had the balls. So I consider this a positive expression of the arts.
So another unrelated thing that made the news recently is so have you heard about this guy's name was Martin Shkreli or something like that? The name won't, but you'll probably know who I'm talking about. He was rich, some rich guy. I don't remember how he made his money originally, but he bought the rights to some sort of HIV or AIDS medication, and then jacked up the price from like $1 pill, like $500 a pill, or something.
So he took over some medical company's patent.
Yeah, and then jacked the price up by like 5,000% or something. Okay. And it went around the internet for like weeks about how much a horrible person this guy was, and like obviously he's shitty. But the problem was that people weren't seeing like what the problem is here, and instead they focused on the fact that, oh my God, there's a shitty person out there somewhere.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
Instead
of realizing like why can you do like how is the medical arena set up so that these things can happen, because you can't do that in any other business. In almost any other business, right? Because the way it's set up so bad, but instead of highlighting that, it just became this like, oh, we should be able to do something about these evil business people. You know what I mean? Like
it's like, yeah, but you don't realize what you're like. They don't want to act.
They don't realize what the real problem is that allows
evil business people.
Exactly.
They're stopping one asshole who bought
if they even could, but they don't even. They didn't stop to think or figure out why he could do that when like every other supposedly asshole businessman can't do that with every other product. It's because of the way the medical because of the way the medical industry is structured. There's literally a lot of things that you can do in terms of pricing and different prices of different people and all that you would get quite literally arrested for if you did another business. If you were like a mechanic,
easily sued.
You can do there's things at a hospital that you would not. I mean, they're illegal. It's not just like sued like, oh, this was shitty. It's like literally illegal.
Yeah, but I mean, it would count as discriminatory because like some of the grounds that it could be on, it's like
different prices to different people and stuff. It's not equal protection. Anyways, so the same guy now he just recently got arrested for some sort of unrelated securities fraud because he's just a douchebag.
He's obviously because he's just buying cheap things that he can sell turnaround for more.
Right. So he's or just trying to make money any way he can. And so then there was this satirical article posted about how his lawyer was like, oh, I'm raising my rates 5,000% now, and the guy got all pissed off about it. I was like, this is stupid, and everyone's like, haha, that would be hilarious if that happened. That would serve him right. And then, but everyone's like, yeah, but he would just get a new lawyer. And I'm like, exactly. Well, what do you know? Right, yeah. In a free market, this type of behavior just wouldn't even work because the guy would just get another lawyer.
Right. No, I mean, that's something like,
what a concept.
I recently looked at something for my current employment, the health insurance offering there at the end of the year. It's utterly stupid.
I'm getting kicked off of mine because of all the Obamacare stipulations about what the plans have to cover. And so they can't do it for the amount that I was, and so they're closing down completely. They're not even offering the plan anymore. Yeah. So now I'm gonna have to. I mean, as it stands now, I'm gonna have to start looking at the exchanges, and the cheapest one is like $250 a month.
Yeah,
and it's still the deductibles are like as high as mine was before.
Right, like this one
because it has to include like
this one's luckily
fucking maternity leave and mental health shit that I'll never
fairly cheap.
Use.
It's like.
But it's less than employee or subsidized.
Yeah, it's more like subsidized ones. They're probably paying about half of it.
Right.
But let's even say they're not. Let's just for the sake of this argument, it's only talking about my costs.
Yeah.
It's still going to cost like $100 a month, $90-$100 at the lowest tier.
Yeah.
Right. And so at the lowest tier and the second lowest tier, you still have a $6,000 deductible. Like, so I'm going to pay.
Is that the deductible? Or is that max out of pocket?
It says deductible. I mean, I'd have to look more into it. That's
I wouldn't be surprised because
that's what's happening, though. I mean, that's what I'm saying. Like, I still would pay $1,200.
It's just for in case you get mangled in a car wreck.
Right,
or something.
You pay $1,200 a year for this service in premiums, and then you still got to pay another $6,000 before you see any money back.
That's before anything
kicks in. Yeah, because it's like 100% afterwards, but the deductible is $6,000. It's like 100% coverage on most things afterwards. But $6,000 up front,
See, I had got for a few years. I have had.
No medical issues that I'm going to need to pay $6,000 unless, like you said, I get caught in an accident.
Right.
In which case, why not I just get, disability insurance?
That's what I mean. Like that's what insurance is supposed to be.
Yeah.
Is like not for that first $5,000 or whatever. It's supposed to be for if something happens, I'm insured. Just like you don't make an insurance claim if you ding your bumper, you make it for if you total your car. Right. Or if you need a new air filter. It's not an insurance. That's how people treat health insurance.
Aflac or whatever, and that was at least decent in the sense that it was just traditional insurance.
Right.
You pay a certain amount per month, and then if you ever have a claim, they go, "Oh, you're at the hospital," and I say yes. And I send them a doctor's note, proof that I'm at the hospital, and I get an automatic amount of money, irrespective of what I'm there for.
Awesome. And was that through an employer or what?
You can do it without an employer, but this one was like a subsidized through an employer one where like you get partially.
Because for a few years I've just been working for myself, so I had just it was not subsidized by anyone. Yeah. It's just me paying for it, but it was a high deductible, just like catastrophic type plan, and it started out at $90 a month because I'm young and healthy and everything.
Right.
And it was like a $5,000 deductible, same thing, and it was like max out of pocket. I think was like $10,000 though, so it's a little worse. But like at the $5,000 point, it started paying like 50% or whatever, up till 10 grand, and then nothing I'd have to pay after that. Right. So even if I got like my face peeled off and needed like limb reconstruction, I would have to be spending 10 grand in that 1 year max.
Right. Which is good, but the problem is
because that's what insurance is.
Most people's health needs are not that. You know what I mean? Like what you go to the
right.
doctor
but
for.
If the whole industry was the way it should be, like we were saying, the normal day-to-day health needs wouldn't cost such a goddamn fortune.
Right. That's exactly where I'm going with this. Is that
so it's become circular.
It's become circular because
you need health care now instead of health
insurance to get health care.
Right.
You know, and the health insurance on the
because
low
even
end
us who we're not anticipating to have any sort of major things, but just to be able to do the minor things, you have to go through the insurance.
For a cold
because they'll literally charge you differently if you don't have the insurance.
Yeah,
they'll literally charge you more.
Yeah, it's just
to get like a fucking antibiotics or something.
If you have one group, a guild of some sort that has monopoly on saying you have to go through us to deal with, you can't buy services from guy A until you pay guy B. It's always going to fuck up your prices.
Well, they can you can, but they're just allowed to charge different prices,
right?
Which is jacked up.
Which is the problem. So they should be charging the same price to the insurance company as to any person who walks in the door.
Where you look at industries where there is no insurance, really. I mean, there is a little bit, but it's not enough.
But it's just traditional.
No, but
insurance.
I'm saying like an industry even that's very, very analogous, like veterinary medical.
Yeah.
It's like you could add a little bit of cost, saying like, okay, maybe they're going to make the implants and all that a little bit better. Maybe it's a little bit more malpractice insurance, but like you could get a surgery like a broken limb or something for a dog, and it may be like a couple $100, and you go to a hospital for that, it could be like $10,000 or $20,000.
Right. Yeah.
It's like absurd,
and it's not like the people who do veterinary medicine go for school that much less time than the people who go to human medicine.
No, it's the same. It's exact same time. It's a medical school.
Yeah,
and it's the same. Like you're literally doing the same thing. It's on a mammal, and you're doing the same operation. But even more analogous is you can look at what's literally happening in other countries. Like Carl Denninger of market/ticker.org. Covers this a lot, and
he's a great source for a lot of these problems.
He is, and how like it's just incongruencies and everything about this particular scorpion antivenom that in the United States is like $40,000 or $50,000 a treatment,
and then like India, it's like
in Mexico it's like $800. So I mean, like this is not a natural market. And I don't even agree. I don't believe in like free trade type shit where like everything in every country has to be the same. But that's a tariff issue thing. That's not what I'm talking about here.
No.
So, but there's the fact that like this is not something that should be $40,000 based on a normal supply and demand curve. You know what I mean?
Not only that, but the idea of tariffs and everything is in a normal, healthy society. Tariffs are there so that your society benefits from trade.
Right.
Versus it going the other way. Our system is obviously set up so that these businesses benefit at our expense.
No matter which way the trade is going.
It will always cost the American people more. It's not like they're trying
specifically to make things not built in America. They just want to maximize their profits.
Right.
And at this particular point in time, that means outsourcing most of this stuff.
We have money. Other people have cheap labor, so they want to siphon money off of us
by moving the jobs
away. You know. And so it's all about just maximizing their profit. And the lawmakers, instead of making laws that are about maximizing America's well-being, are making laws that maximize their cronies and their funders and their, everything else, like you said.
Right.
And all that kind of, like, the worst of free trade, where it's like it only goes the one way, It's not
it's not even free trade.
It's not free trade, because it's like, it's free trade out to every other country where they can sell it. They'll sell, literally, like I've heard other stories, like similar things where in India, the prescription medication will sell for what is profitable, not profitable,
because they
affordable.
They would never sell it otherwise.
You can't sell it for $10,000.
Right.
You can sell it for $500.
Now, there's a difference.
They're still willing to.
Now, to me, there's a difference between like I understand that I understand about research and development. I understand that when something first comes out, it's going to be more expensive. You know what I mean? But that's market controlled shit.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? That's not government controlled. That's like when the first VHS came out, it was $800 for VCR or something. And that wasn't because the government was protecting these industries, because that's how much it cost.
Right.
So the rich people who were into that technology bought it until they could
Early
make it better.
And
now you can go buy a fucking tablets and smartphones for $40 when first they were $600 or $800. And it has nothing to do with government involvement. That was just because that's the way these markets go.
They made a product that had enough
legs
to survive iterations.
This shit is becoming more expensive over time.
Right.
Because it's being interfered with.
Right. And it's just because they have the ear of the government and the backing of laws. They don't have to modify their market practices to be more competitive.
Right.
They can just drive the prices up instead.
Right.
Even though it's at the point where nobody can afford this stuff. No average person. Like, literally.
Nobody can.
Like, I've seen reports that, like, the amount of healthcare costs for like a family of 5, like off of somebody who make, or family of, sorry, like 4, off somebody who makes like 30 grand is 30 grand.
Right.
You know, so if
you were to just go pay out of pocket.
Right. If you're going to make a low minimum wage, not minimum wage, like a low, 30, 40, thousand a year, which is kind of middle class, at least it used to be.
Right.
Now,
just the normal day-to-day healthcare type stuff.
Like if you just needed to do, everybody gets doctor checkups, everybody goes to the dentist like you're supposed to, and everything like that.
You have the births and everything that happen and all that stuff.
You're going to lose all the money you made that year.
If you didn't have insurance,
If you didn't have it. Well, even if you're getting insurance, you're saying. Like, if you get insurance and try to make use of it, like, you get insurance and then you pay those deductibles, like...
Yeah.
Well, I mean, even insurance might not necessarily be like that, but I mean, still, it's like...
Well, because if it was, no one would be having
Yeah, that's true. But no, with insurance, it's like the threshold becomes like, if you're one of the people who works minimum wage, you're making 15 grand a year.
Well, that's why they have to put them on Medicaid, I guess.
Because, I mean, like, for example, if I got the insurance I was looking at there, that low tier and had to pay, or the second tier, which would be like $150 a month, almost $200.
Yeah.
Pay $6 grand out of pocket before anything starts coming my way.
Yeah.
It would be, like you're making minimum wage. That's half your year's earnings before your health insurance pays off. You know what I mean?
Yeah. It's
you're
ridiculous.
paying $7 grand.
Yeah.
7-8 grand before you see any money back from what you've invested.
Right. Yeah. It's absurd. And it's just because the industry is literally allowed to operate in ways that
it's got
are illegal
protectionist
for other
laws
people.
that protect them from having fair business practices.
And it can't last forever, so... But we'll see what happens. But that's why Obamacare was so shitty, because even the people who were legitimately like leftists,
baffling.
If they were intellectually honest, they had to admit that it was not even what they were. It's not.
No,
it's a terrible example of
that's why
single
I don't believe
payer.
how people supported it.
Right,
like,
because it was better for no one.
Yeah.
Literally, the only thing that anyone could even say was a good thing was that the people with pre-existing conditions now had a way to get insurance. It didn't make
price up for them.
Well, for everyone else, yeah, but for them, they couldn't get it at all. So, like, they could legitimately say, okay, things now, they're not some sort of change.
Right, they could get
but that
more
was such a terrible way of doing it.
Yeah.
If that's what you want, if that's all you really needed, because that's all they really got. Everything else is just a bailout. It was literally bailing out the insurance to afford to be able to get everybody in.
Right,
like, force everyone to get in. And that's not insurance.
No.
When everyone is in and, like...
No. Like I said, it was all because they protected the industries and let them have bad business practices and let them do things that...
Same like with the banks and the auto industry and everything else.
Like they keep subsidizing when they make bad mistakes and let them do practices that harm the people instead of do things that help the country and to make them a profit. Because you could do both.
Right, you know? Technically, I mean.
Yeah, you can
but now everyone's in like
a free
in
market
the situation you described. There's just
business and not milk your country for blood money.
Right, but now a lot of people have to choose between either being uninsured or being in like this health insurance serfdom where you have to work or get some sort of subsidized plan to be able to afford health insurance.
Like I said, I think that's really the plan, because ideas, like, there's not really... It's getting harder to get jobs, getting harder everything else, so we got to scare... We're like, oh, people aren't buying health insurance. Well, we make this massive bill that makes them buy health insurance.
Yeah, and we actually charge you a tax if they don't.
So they basically got the government to say, buy our products or else.
Right.
You know,
and
like,
it did make it cheaper.
iPhones were like that.
Right.
Any other product. Noticeable.
Any other product.
But they got the
like, what the hell?
The hot button issue of healthcare because some people thought they were going to get free healthcare.
Well, and that greed and fear, yeah. Some people were greedy and the rest were afraid or
I just can't believe people fell for it, because it was obvious before the bill passed, or at least within the first few months after it passed, that it was free healthcare.
Well, as Aristotle said, and if you honestly accept this principle as being like, not just like, oh yeah, that's true, but like really think about it, that there's some people who cannot have their minds changed by information.
You know what's interesting?
It really changes your worldview. If you like, because everyone was like, yeah, I know, and they're like, no, think about that.
Right.
You could, any proof that you could come up with,
people cannot.
It will not change their mind. Like there's a significant portion of the population out there like this. That has to change your worldview and how you deal with people who disagree with you.
Aristotle's quote on that about some people can learn from rhetoric and some people can learn from dialectic, but some can learn from neither, kind of thing.
Right.
You know, or some is true, but I mean it's a very useful way of looking at it. But I find a more pithy and fun way to look at it.
Yeah.
It's actually Sun Tzu's Art of War. This, of course, is the English translation.
About knowing yourself.
No, it's his version about like the grades of people. He's talking about forming your army and building up things. He says a similar thing. He says like, there's a kind of person that being, that looking at a thing can understand it and know how it works. This person is peerless.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. At all
and
costs.
He's like 3% of people.
No, yeah, well, he doesn't say percentage. Just says the next kind of person, once being taught something or shown something, understands what you have shown them, knows how it works from now on. This person is excellent and should be pursued at all costs. So the first two people, he says pursued at all costs. The third person, once being shown something, still does not understand it and is worthless.
Yeah, exactly. But seriously, it's like those three groups is like 1%, 4%, 95%.
Right, that's it. Like, it was like, or if we just use like the 80-20 rule, it's like 1%, 19%, 80%.
Right,
like
pretty much. That's probably more realistic.
1% is autodidactic, can learn, be genius, something like that. 20%
understand the deeper meanings.
20% is, you teach them and raise them well.
And they'll be able to
do it. And not only will they be able to do it, they'll probably understand in the end why you taught them that. Right. They'll be like, I get it.
But at the very least, they'll be able to do it.
They'll be able to follow it.
And
then the rest just can't learn.
They're useless eaters, literally.
Right, yeah.
Empty meat suits.
Some people you teach, it's probably not, the numbers might not be that bad, but there certainly is.
I bet they're not that good. I'm dead serious.
Yeah, that's possible. But I'm just saying, there is definitely.
We surround ourselves with a lot of above average people.
Seem to learn from when they got duped the last time.
That's why I've tried to explain that to people. Like, there's a lot. You especially see this in a lot of like the because I have what could be described as a lot of like anarchist and libertarian ideals. But you see in this community like the complete disregard for just basic human nature. Yeah, and like if that's not in your model, you will fail.
Where they think like libertarianism will work. Like, libertarianism works in a society of high intelligence, conscientious people.
Well, and that's what I've explained to someone else. I was like, if you have a group of people who are dedicated to the interests of that group, any sort of government will quote unquote work. Like, you could have a communist a survival compound run like a communist, and it quote unquote works because everyone cares about each other.
It's a small group.
Yeah, and you wouldn't even have to use violence to enforce any of these ideas. The
problem is anything in large amounts, you get enough dead weight of the mouth breathers in there.
Right. But I'm saying, but then that was the other side of the coin is when you have a group of people who don't give a shit about anything with themselves. None of the systems quote unquote work. Right, so then you at least have to choose the one that rewards the people who are doing the good thing and allows the people who refuse to do the good things to just suffer the natural consequences. Right. That's the only. That's as close to you can have as an equitable system. Right. But instead, they try to fix those issues, pooling more and more resources and putting more and more restrictions on that 20% to try and fix the just inherent problems of these people who are just cannot be taught by. And it's not about inherent intelligence either.
No, it's literally just as like a mental stubbornness. Right. Like it's not even like a willful stubbornness. It's just like. Because there are people of all intelligence levels. It's just the way that
their mind deals with information. And like I used to think that there was like animals and humans, and like humans had souls and animals didn't. But honestly, the more I think about it, the more it's just like I think I've mentioned this before. It's a spectrum of consciousness, and it's like some people like I've looked in dogs' eyes and literally seen like more of an attempt to actually process and deal with information than certain humans. Like obviously, the human's brain is more powerful, and it's doing a lot more like calculations. But the way that their mind is dealing with information is just not on the same level as other people. They're just not interacting with.
It's not mind thing because, like I said, some people again may think of that meaning intelligence, but it doesn't. Intelligence is just
it's about the consciousness
of your brain.
Yeah, it's just the basic computing power of your brain.
But you can still have a bad software paradigm in there,
right? It just doesn't use that power effectively.
Intelligent person who's got a rut that you.
And one of the examples I use is there was some guy that. A year or two ago, he was in line at Taco Bell in the drive-thru, and they didn't give him like the right number of picante sauces, so he drove home, got a shotgun, came back, and like I don't think he actually shot the place up, but he got arrested for whatever. So I'm like, all right, so this guy, even if you think he has an IQ of like 80 or whatever, I don't think he's probably closer to average. Yeah. Like this was not a breakdown of his logical process. The guy was operating complex machinery. He's reading. He's operating the gun. He's working a day-to-day job. It's just he's fucking crazy and isn't dealing with stimulus in the same way that our bodies and brains do.
He didn't make it a cost-benefit analysis.
And this wasn't because he was too stupid. Like if any other day in his life you'd asked him what would happen if someone went into a Taco Bell and with a shotgun, he'd be able to tell you that they'd go to jail. Right. Because he's not this like unmitigatingly beast-headed that he's like running around in rags like flinging poo or something. Right, like this is a normal person for the most part. And like that's what people don't understand. And when it comes to like
that's even a bad example because different people just have breaking points. It's more like the ones where people keep going.
But the point, I mean, obviously, right? You could say
behavior.
that this couldn't control his anger, but the point still stands in that the intelligence isn't like it's not a breakdown of his intelligence.
Not necessarily,
right? Yeah. It's not because he wasn't.
There's
smart
a strong
enough.
correlation between intelligence and some of these other things,
right?
But a lot of it probably having to do with some people have postulated like a time sensitivity,
just a time preference,
time preference. Like you're not willing to. If you're more intelligent, you understand long term more, so you're more willing to wait for a good thing,
right?
Or to understand that
instead of putting a super
bad things
importance on your like what you're feeling right at that moment,
right?
But so it's
like if you're less intelligent, it's not so much that you're less intelligent; it's that it seems to be a strong correlation of you're not able to see past you're in the moment emotion.
Yeah, but so I was talking with someone about who's a fairly anarchist or libertarian and stuff, and always about like, if there was a perfectly anarchist society, this would work because of this. And I'm like, look, people people wouldn't care because they would be maximizing their liberty, and I'm like, almost no one is doing what it would take to maximize their liberty now, even in the ways that are available to them. They're willingly giving it up. So like, what makes you think that if there was less protections and less like coddling, that they would be more likely to embrace that liberty? You know what I mean? Like they're not even fighting for it now. Like, why would they fight for it when it's really hard?
There's a lot. Yeah, there's a lot more freedoms than some people realize right now. Even as we decry a lot of the things that
regardless of what the current level is, the point is that people are not even maximizing it in the ways that they can and then what's available. So why would they do it then? Like, people don't value freedom until they don't have it. Right. You know what I mean? They value security and ease and comfort and things like that.
Right.
Especially these groups of people that we're talking about that don't have no time preference and everything like that.
Right.
And they certainly don't have any sense of just like pride and responsibility.
Yeah, exactly. I mean,
and it's not just because I'm saying like this is like this group of gorillas out there who just don't understand any of these things. Like, these are people, a lot of them will be even above average intelligence.
Yeah. Yeah,
you know what I mean?
It's just there's certain personality traits that exist in the world,
right?
And that you won't learn from your mistakes is one of them,
right?
And a lot of people can have that personality trait,
right?
And you won't break out. I mean, and a lot of it is sad because a lot of it probably comes just like a lot of I think a lot of human history is a lot more due to pathology than we think.
Yeah,
like certain societies. This is a very interesting kind of. I think it's kind of a pseudoscience these days, but it's called like psychohistory. It's basically an idea of trying to look at historical eras in societies and judge what were the most common
neuroses
were at the time.
Right.
Like, for example, the one article I read that introduced me to that was a guy looking at South America and all its cannibalism and human sacrifice and saying like why this was and why
certainly some of it could be in genetics, some could be environmental, some could
right. But no, he's saying what kind of psychological effect it had on its children. So it made like children that were raised brutally to be like you're useless.
Just like people who are abused are more likely to abuse when they grow up.
Exactly.
So regardless of what the issue was.
To make a long-winded thing short, there you go. What you just said. People who were abused tended to abuse, so end up making up a whole society of people that thought the best way to go about making sure your crops worked
was to
kidnap people, kill them, and
eat
have
their hearts.
Well, like it wasn't just like the priests. Like the priests would take out the hearts and offer to the gods, burn them on the pyre or whatever, and the body would be rolled down, and they'd take it and. First cut would go to the guy who caught the guy, and then he was required by like being civic minded. You give out pieces to everybody else, share a piece, and they go home and boil like the human flesh and stuff.
Right.
and then everybody likes to talk about now. Of course, he was also giving us a partial critique of how people like to go back with this romantic idea and be like, "Well, if Europe hadn't come and butchered these people, we'd have a great Mexico now." And it's like you do realize a more psychologically advanced society bumped into a more psychologically barbaric society, one that was living more animalistic. They just saw even fellow sentients as meat sources or totem items, and like stuff like, oh, this is a foreigner, so kill and offer to gods, you know, and like, and so it bumped up to the one that had ideas about civil law and civic liberties, and, you know, the rights of people, like that's the thing people forget is like the disparity between the American civilizations and the European ones was. I was going to say decades. I don't even know why. It was millennia apart.
Yeah, right.
Like, everywhere else in the world, China, Africa, everything else had metal weapons and ideas about governance that included, like, even the ones that still had, like, slavery and stuff, still had ideas about rights and,
to some extent.
To some extent,
right. It was at least a discussion.
And none other than, like, island nations in the Pacific and the undiscovered parts were resorting to cannibalism anymore. Right. And it's just some parts of the world that hadn't grown up past these bad ways of thinking, And people just don't like to think about it like that because they
like to think that cultures are good in and of themselves, just like...
Well, I don't know. I guess they get afraid of deterministic ideas about human population.
Well, that, and they're afraid of racism, and then there's also this belief that just like with animal species, every culture is just like inherently worth keeping around for no particular reason other than it was there to begin with.
Right, yeah.
You know, like, why does it matter to me that the fucking dodo bird is extinct? Who gives a fuck?
Right, yeah. It's probably better in the case of animals that things don't go extinct simply because we don't know the impact it has and we can't really bring it back.
Right, but I'm saying that the argument is that, like, just in and of itself that it exists, it's bad if it
kinds of things.
No, but I mean, my point is the argument that it's just like, it's here, so it's bad if it's not here, kind of thing.
Yeah,
and I'm like, that doesn't really mean... Like, I'm not saying that it's good if they're gone, but
like
that's not an argument.
And there were cultures of all kinds more advanced than the ones I'm talking about that did things that were bad that's probably good they're gone. You know,
right.
There was the Barbary pirate culture of North Africa for a while. That was a huge slave trade thing, you know.
Well, that just comes back to another
culture that people are glad if we've gone
intellectual
past.
bias when people are faced with a some sort of critique of anything. They automatically take it as like a support for the alternative, or even just
what they suppose the alternative.
What they right, because there's always infinite alternatives.
There's always ones that people butt up against each other, in like basically the Republican Democrat one being obviously. If you don't support the Democrat, you obviously support the Republican.
Like if you just say Hillary's such a worthless piece of shit, then they're like, well, why do you like Rubio or Cruz? And it's like, what does that have to do with anything? I just said she's a worthless piece of shit.
I could think.
Are you saying she's not a worthless piece of shit?
I could say they're all worthless pieces of shit. Just because they imply.
Right. And
just like I think I told you. One time I had this running... Oh, I think we brought this up in the last podcast too, but
on Facebook.
Yeah, like no, some forum, but like a guy, you know,
maybe
some guy got some stupid, you know, and I came back with a train is fine-esque thing, you know, like, you know, I was like, you know, by the way, did your last girlfriend leave you because of your tiny dick or crippling Asperger's? And he said like, well, no, that's the kind of dumb thing people would say if they didn't really, you made it, you know.
Paragraph. Oh my god, I triggered him.
No, so I said, so it was the Asperger's thing, your fourth thing.
You're like, after reading a one sentence, you just see paragraph pop up and you're like, it was the Asperger's.
Right, yeah.
I mean, you may have also had a small
right, yeah, and then he said, well, good, thanks for saying I have a big dick. And I'm like, no.
Your reading comprehension failed.
Reading comprehension has failed.
Yeah.
You can also
I just said that's why she left you.
Right, yeah.
She may have also been displeased about your pathetic pecker.
Right, yeah, but I've been enough to drive her away.
Right, yeah, exactly.
Really just the social
maybe she was fat and ugly too, but she could tolerate the small wiener.
Maybe she, you know, low like, sex drive.
Yeah, exactly. Didn't mind
a tepid fuck every
day. Yeah, exactly. A little nipple dick grazing her on the backside occasionally.
Don't give me terrible visions.
Oh man.
Yeah, but anyway, so it's like reading comprehension fail. Just because it is one doesn't mean it's also not the other.
Oh yeah, there's so much reading comprehension fail. I've learned to identify pretty quickly whether I'm going to be able to have an honest discussion with people or not. And honestly, it's just if you just assume that you're not, it's better to get a couple goofy insults in against someone before you realize that you can talk with them than the alternative. Than to waste a good time than trying to convince someone before you realize.
There's another easy, pithy one about what we're talking about. Pearls and swine.
Exactly.
You throw your pearls before swine. Some people aren't going to learn from the truth you try to show them.
Alright, so why waste it?
You're
just wasting your time.
Yeah. And, like I said, like... whatever the reason is unimportant. You just got to go through life understanding that you do your best to show the truth to people, but be ready to say, oh, this is not one of those people willing to accept a reasoned discussion.
And then move on.
And you
can't feel bad about it either. Or try to oh my god, there's these poor souls out there that are just,
Right. Like I said, it all comes down to if you're willing to let people accept the consequences of their actions.
Right.
Now, a kind person gives the opportunity to teach people because a lot of people's bad choices is because life is complicated.
Right.
And the subtleties of it
no one starts off right about everything.
Yeah. So, like, even the smartest person in the world
but a lot of people
owes a debt to a lot of people showing them the right way.
Yeah.
But there's a lot of people who you show the right way and still go the wrong way.
And then a lot of people
and keep smoking
cross that line into, like,
you
weakness
know?
where they continue to, like, use their own resources and time to try and just help, I guess, these people who are beyond,
That's what I'm
you
saying.
know what I mean?
It's like, there's a difference between the people who keep going to drugs and you get sad because they're homeless and
I'm not saying you have to feel good about them
who show up to rehab because they know they need help.
Right.
There's a difference.
Right. And in both categories, actually, some people can be helped and some can't.
Right.
You know what I mean? But at least the ones who are looking for help are a better place to put your energy if you're so
But it's also
inclined.
like there's a certain amount of you can give help to even those who don't ask for it, but you got to acknowledge that this exists.
Right, and you have to acknowledge that there's an opportunity cost, and that time and energy is not going towards people who you care about, people who are willing to help you and are actually doing good things with their lives and stuff. That doesn't mean it's wrong, but you got to realize, like as with anything, if people are going into the decision, if it's made consciously with an understanding of the costs and the opportunity costs, then I'm okay with it. But too many things are just done because that's your mental script,
right?
And it's not really known.
Because it sounds nice, it makes you feel like you're a good person or something,
right?
You know? And it's like. That's just the reason that one comes up a lot. I think is that's obviously the trap of our society. Like like I said, every society. Yeah. That's one of the cool things about this psychohistory. Every society has a dominant pathology problem.
Right.
It's what leads to a lot of the dominant set of pathology problems.
Right.
And if you were using that same theory for America, the what's the term? Like basically like your good Samaritan to a fault is like one of the pathologies. Like,
where you just want to fix everything. Like.
Yeah, or you imagine that you can, that it's your job and it's your responsibility.
Caretaker type thing.
Right, yeah. And it's...
almost like a Munchausen thing.
yeah, and also it's this, this martyr complex idea. Right. It's another way, one of the ways to put it, one of the variants of that. This idea of like, oh, look at me, isn't it just our, it's honestly a perversion of like the white man's guilt.
Well, that's what I was just going to say, was white man's
burden. They like to think they're white not racist,
but
they're thinking about how it's our job to fix anything as if we're better off.
And also just like I was mentioning, like the Munchausen thing where they purposely get their kids sick because they just like the attention or seen as being a good caretaker. Like they honestly don't want to fix the problem of all these like they don't give about poor black communities or whatever. They just want to be seen as a good person by trying to deal with it. They're not honestly interested in.
And one of the terrible things about this is there's plenty of people who are getting drowned out
by
all these
people
who are just doing it out of mythology they don't even understand about themselves.
But even the true believers are rarely realistic and honest with about what it would take to accomplish it.
Let's not even that aside. There are people who are realistic and honest, or like you said, they understand that it's an uphill battle that can never be won. Right. But just like religious monks in the past or something, to say like each generation will get some help and some people will be helped. And we can't save all people from poverty, but we will take in weary travelers on the road.
Yeah.
And something like that. Like you can live your life saying, yeah, obviously we can't change the world, but I can do good with what I have.
You know how the one way that most people could do good though?
Yeah.
Is by sending us money and buying shit through our affiliate links. And
thanks,
share.
Eric.
Yeah, exactly.
If you buy now.
Right. We'll give you you're planting a faith seed.
Right, yeah, exactly.
We'll shower you with benefits.
4 hungry children in Africa will be ignored.
Right.
No.
I saw this hilarious picture that showed like this African village or somewhere. I don't know. I don't think it was African. It's probably an Indian kid, but it's just a fat brown kid. And it was like, looks like someone's been living off more than 25 cents a day.
Gosh.
Terrible.
Yeah.
But it was funny.
Yeah. Yeah.
We got to start putting more of these memes that I find on the
we need to start
website.
linking them because they're humorous. Yeah.
Yeah.
But anyway,
and also give people.
And we also need to move on to less. Again, one more of our philosophical debates.
Yeah, maybe that's what we're good at.
Yeah, I guess mixing the humor and the truth.
A word about it in an hour.
Probably going to wrap it up here. Oh, one thing I want to say though. Our last topic here. Good last topic too.
Yeah, hit me.
As of the recording, it is the day. And so by the time this goes out, it'll probably be a day or two in the release of Star Wars.
Oh, right.
So Star Wars. We have not seen it yet.
Right. I probably won't, based on how busy it is, I'm not expecting to see it for a week.
Based on how sold out it is, we might not see it until next week or something. I'm in no rush to see it. I'd like to see it.
I'm going to see it.
I'm not wary enough to not rush myself to see it.
I'm just not worried about it.
Yeah, and
but I'll see it.
But predictions. Will it suck?
I don't think it'll suck. Yeah. I think that it will...
Now, here's the question. Here's the thing. Because I've seen 1 or 2 reviews, just like on straight newspaper stuff. They're already giving it 4 stars. I think it's going to get favorable reviews, and people are kind of like...
I mean, shit, the first Phantom Menace and stuff was doing okay, even by word of mouth at first, it's not like people were coming out being like, oh my god, it wasn't until later that people were like, you know what, that really fucking sucked.
I think I remember people being kind of like, but no, it did have a little...
people were disappointed. People were disappointed, but the hype carried it through until it wasn't until later that people were like,
right, but I'm saying, really I think the critics were kind of... middling on it
I think so.
To begin with.
But it didn't matter because everyone was going to see it anyway.
So I'm not worried about that. But I mean, obviously, Disney's going to make their money back regardless.
Right. I don't think they have to worry about that.
Right. But, I guess they kind of do because they bought Lucasfilm for $4 billion, so they got to get more than $4 billion.
They'll make over $1 billion, but that's not. They'll make $1 billion from this movie alone.
Yeah,
and you're talking about merchandising
they'll
never run out of money for that.
Yeah, even if they don't make another, even if
I think they'll make that back just on the trilogy, that $4 billion.
Oh,
especially, and then the merchandising.
I think they'll make that $4 billion on merchandising if they're willing to wait long enough. Like, because even if they never did anything else with the franchise,
just the royalties flow in.
People make new Star Wars video games and
licensing
toys
for
stuff.
all the buy these Ritz crackers with fucking droids on them.
There will be Star Wars, even if they never made another movie, there'd be Star Wars for another 30 years before it became culturally irrelevant.
Right, exactly.
But now they're making another movie,
right.
Even if it's a middling success, it'll be culturally relevant for another 40, 50 years.
Yeah, exactly.
Because a new generation.
Because now there will have been 9 movies or something.
Right, and there'll be 9-year-olds that are seeing it right now.
Right.
And they'll be like...
And they didn't grow up with Chelsea's bravery, so they'll like this tripe.
Right, yeah.
They want to compare it to.
They didn't see He-Man use the leg press to save the world.
Right, yeah, exactly.
For some reason, I always like that in the He-Man cartoons.
Yeah, we do strict form of pushing a big globe away or an
asteroid
or something.
You jump in between there was
an expanding. Well, it was
there was one where they got something called the Star Seed that would expand or something.
It was about to bust open the temple.
And it would grow double in size every so long, and it would basically swallow the whole planet eventually.
So we had to get between it and a
It
rock
had the power of a star.
Leg press it, smash it back down the size.
There's another one where he jumps in a tectonic plate. And literally does the leg press
pushes it apart.
And pushes the tectonic plates apart.
I think the Star one though was the one. It was already so big that he was just laying on it, spread out, and
had
to face down and had to squeeze it with all 4 limbs until it was fist size.
He just squeezed it with a lat press, or
just laying on it like it was a giant. Basically, he was almost just completely prostrate.
Yeah.
Well, that's on your back, isn't it? So he's supinated.
Yeah, exactly. He was just laying.
No, that's the other way around. Prostrate is face down.
Yeah, prostrate is face down. You're right. But yeah, he was just prostrated across it almost. It would not work.
In star position, legs and arms out.
And he just squeezed it down, and then he soccer ball kicked it into space.
Right, drop kicks it.
Right, yeah.
And actually the animated movement for those was really clean. Yeah, it looked really realistic.
They used a lot of repeated stock footage in that cartoon.
Right, but the way they initially did
the reason was because a lot of the footage they did for the action scenes was they filmed people and rotoscoped muscle men and Olympians doing stuff.
Right.
So it would also go from
the running and
really
vaulting
stiff,
always looked really clean.
Standing around talking that was stock footage to a moment of really cool action where he runs and leaps into the sea and it looks
clean and realistic.
Yeah.
Or jumping and landing and stuff.
Yeah, and go shoot, that sound effect. And she'll come in and pull the sword out and toss it from hand to hand.
Right. Yeah,
come on. Yeah.
Oh, that's good stuff.
Yeah. But anyway, the Star Wars will it suck question. What I'm curious about is, like I said, it's getting pretty good reviews. I think it's going to be, like we've predicted, better than the prequels.
Yeah, I don't think
and it'll probably be a solid middle ground.
I don't think it's going to... I think the vibe is going to be off.
Yeah, exactly. I'm thinking... why I'm not super excited
feel like Star Wars.
is I feel like it's going to be a much more competently made movie that'll seem somehow hollow. And everyone will ride the hype train and be like, finally Star Wars!
It'll be better, but it'll be hollow.
And then
soulless kind of.
It may take longer to realize, but you'll, after enough breakdowns, you'll later on go,
I didn't like that very much either.
This part was weird, and why did this character... Oh well, who knows,
But I think we'll get a couple of mildly entertaining movies out of it.
Right.
Probably in the same... I think they'll be better. I honestly am expecting them to be better than, the Hobbit movies to me.
Oh, God, yes.
You know
the Hobbit movies ended up being a travesty.
Yeah, they were terrible. I didn't like it. I didn't even watch. I watched the first one, didn't like it at all. Only watched the second one because I was on an airplane. And I was like, all right, I'll give it a shot. And then I just have never even watched the third one.
The third one is 1 2-hour-long fight scene. It's just the battle of the 5 armies.
It's probably not that bad, but...
Well, no, it still manages to be bad.
Somehow.
Yeah. Even though it's all about, it's just really
I'm waiting
bad
for Jack Reacher, too.
CG a lot of the time,
yeah.
And, it's just, so thin on plot. It's just, it has, 30 minutes of upfront plot about the tension between the elves, the dwarves, and the humans. Then the orcs show up, and it turns into an hour and a half of that.
Yeah.
And it's trying to be all,
that should have been 2
epic.
movies max. That
yeah,
series.
But, I don't know why they thought that battle needed to be
so epic.
One thing they already did. The world is going to end.
You're never going to have the gravitas and the epicness of those battles of the third Lord of the Rings.
Right? Yeah, where the entire fate of a country.
Well, it's like the fate of the universe, evil versus good, and
right? Yeah, exactly. And they're trying to turn that into this, this into that. I should say
with crappy CG.
And apparently I read something that made me kind of see, apparently Peter Jackson, everyone kind of like, what did he fall? Well, apparently he took over for a different director. They were gonna have Guillermo del Toro, I think, was gonna do him.
Okay.
And kind of late in production, they decided, no, we'll just have Jackson do him again. And so there was a sense of some people doing the behind the scenes documentary stuff for like the DVD release and stuff. Where there was a sense of it just being like, whatever, fuck it.
Yeah,
just kind of everyone
wasn't really his pet project like the first ones were.
Yeah, exactly. Not as much. At least
where he really was
maybe he didn't want to do
passionate about it. Yeah,
but I don't believe that 100%. I believe that I know he and his co-writers did some of the writing, and they just made it weirder and dumber than the changes they did to the first.
I think it's probably a lot like the Lucas problems where initially it was a little bit more
bigger group
contained,
project.
And his ideas have been contained. The good editors and other people that could say no, you know what I mean. Yeah. And after it was really successful, then the people who were saying no disappeared.
Right.
You know what I mean? Because the producers were like, let him do what he wants. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And he made us $1 million last time.
Right. Made him a lot more than that.
Well, yes, but
It made them individually
$1 million bucks. Yeah, exactly. A lot more.
Well, we'll check it out. We'll let you know what we think.
Yeah. So the next one, by the time of the next podcast next week, we'll probably have seen Star Wars and give the verdict.
It's possible.
But by then, I'm sure you will have seen Star Wars, whoever you are listening.
All you 4 of you magnificent bastards.
Yes. Pat yourselves on the back.
Now
slap yourselves in the face.
Yeah.
And say, remember Chozu! Yeah. Don't look away.
Yeah, remember his honor, his bravery.
Right, yeah.
All right.
Adios.
Peace out, homies.